Hey, good afternoon, friends. Cruising in beautiful Boise, Idaho. The fall is here. And take you on a walk on the bike path. Look at the beautiful Boise River. And today, a friend of mine is going to join us, Shango, and talk about things in regenerative agriculture and see what he's up to. But yeah, just wanted to say hey and welcome to the show. We'll answer some questions, so if any of you got something dying to ask, feel free to shoot it on now. We'll get to it. If we miss it, ask again. How's everybody doing? Where's everyone? Here it's a beautiful time of day. It's about to be sunset. And it's a bit cold. Good morning. Where are you if it's good morning? Benny Botanics. Rainy day in Boston. Someone was just asking about pears. This time of year, pears are probably ripe, and we call that fermented fruit juice when you use ripe fruit. Yeah, I'll be there in Humboldt. I hope you can be there. Fermented fruit juice is easy. It's just like FPJ, but you use it more for ripening your crop than you use it for general use. So we don't use that ripe fruit for a whole lot in the natural farming process. It's kind of limited use. Man, what a day. Yeah, so it's gonna be a fun spring. There's a bunch of things going on. The regenerative conferences and windy. Okay, I'll stop walking. Sit down here. Enjoy the ducks. Thanks, EC Island Organics. Yeah, so you might use FFJ, that ripe fruit ferment, for something towards the end of your crop. Yeah, for ripening or finishing off. Less for the general use or all the time use. Oh, somebody was just asking about pears, and it's something we don't use all the time. Is that wind better? Yeah, so hanging out and really excited to invite a friend on the show today just to talk story and yeah, definitely want to hear your guys' questions as always. Yeah, in fall and winter, one of the things that people really struggle with is getting the IMO 1 collection if they're behind or don't have one on the shelf. Awesome out there in Kauai. Glad to hear you're taking advantage of the incredible growing conditions out there. Yeah, so my buddy Shango, hey, welcome.
Hey, Hey Chris, how's it going, brother?
Good. Glad you're here. Yeah, it's what you're in California today?
No, I am here on Vashon Island in Washington State today, packing up, getting ready to head out to Emerald Cup.
Awesome. Super cool. Is it raining?
It's always raining this time of year. That's all right, though. I'll take the rain, just as long as it's not snowing.
Yeah. I figure if it's gonna be cold, we're out here in Boise. If it's gonna be cold, I want the snow so the kids can play in it.
Yeah, well, you and I have got different drives. Since I don't have kids, I'm not looking to give them an experience. I'm just looking to keep my shoes dry.
Yeah, I hear you. That
Yeah.
that makes for a very different snow experience. Scraping it off the car is not fun either.
No, it's not.
Hey
But
Shango, I hope that everybody that's following me is following you. So this is your audience. But if you guys aren't following or don't know who Shango is, definitely give him a follow, as he's talking all the time with some incredible people. Shango, what do you do? Tell us about Shaping Fire?
right on, cool. Thanks, Chris. So I am host and founder of Shaping Fire and the Shaping Fire podcast, and it started out as a podcast because I was reaching out to the people who I was most interested in the industry to ask them the questions that I thought were missing from the conversation, and so that's taken. You know,
Oh, I lost you just for a second
all
there.
right. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but anyway. So I interview people on my show and I ask them the questions I think that are being missed in the general cannabis conversation, and then much to my pleasure, a YouTube channel spun off of it as well, because I go to so many events and I see other good speakers, and so I just go ahead and record them and put them on my YouTube channel over at over at Shango Los. And so that's what I do. I've got the podcast that's audio only that comes out at shapingfire.com, and then this YouTube channel that's kind of taken off. It serves like 50,000 unique people a month. There's like over 150 videos there. Me talking with other cannabis folks, and then just stuff that I see that's awesome. So essentially, what I tell people is that if I see it, you see it. So anyway, but today's not about like us, right? Today it's about the Regenerative conference that Joshua and oh wait, before I move on, let me make sure I plug episode number 35, because Chris was kind enough to come on the show, and it was great. We had a great conversations, about 90 minutes, and it's especially good for people who are either new to KNF and making ferments, or also folks who they've jumped in but they really want a reapproach of the basics. On episode 35 of Shaping Fire, Chris really breaks it down of why we do this stuff that we're doing, instead of just focusing only on recipes, which he certainly gives recipes during the show, but it's understanding the why behind it, so you've got a good context to do your creative work with your plants. So, okay. So with that, but today we're really here to talk about the Regenerative conference that Joshua and Leighton have put together, and because it's coming up, and people are talking about it, people buying their tickets, and I know I'm really excited to go to both the Humboldt event and the Michigan event. But a lot of people are like, oh, it's the same speakers in the same cities, and if I live in one of these cities, why would I go again? And then and I get that, right? Because you think, oh, I've heard that speaker, right?
Sure.
But I've heard you many times, Chris, and every time I hear you, whether it's on like my podcast or somebody else's podcast or live or whatever, I'm always getting new stuff from you, because not only do you have like hours and hours of knowledge to share with people, but also you're constantly learning. You're an active learner yourself, and so I love when I come to an event and you're all like, okay, so here's some baseline stuff, but here's what I'm excited about right now, and so I want to encourage people to if you're into regenerative agriculture, if you're into living soil, if you care about the rhizosphere, if you're into microbes, do what you can to go to this. I mean, hell, I'm flying to Michigan on my own dime to go to it, to see it a second time, because every time I catch one of these conferences, I learn so much. So Chris, why don't we, why don't we kind of use you for an example, right? Because we've got like, or they've got like 8 or 9 speakers, and everybody's kind of got their, oh, this is what we did last year, this we're going to do this year. But why don't we take you as an example, man? Why don't you talk about what you're going to talk about this year, and why it's different than last year? Because in the end, we're all here in service of regenerative agriculture, and we want to encourage people to go to the conference. So I mean, we're not going to be shy about that. We want you to come out and be part of the community. So what are you planning for this year that is not what you did last year, brother?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the speakers I've talked to, everybody's got that approach. They are excited about new things. They're excited about what they've done in the last year and how things are changing. And I think of any industry in our country right now, the cannabis world has some drastic changes and discoveries. I tell people all the time that that aren't in the industry and in the cannabis industry, I tell them the greatest botany work of any generation is in the cannabis world, and the discoveries and genetics of and things people have learned in the last 50 years is pretty amazing. For me, Josh and Leighton and I talked this year, and one of the things that I like about this conference is the hope or the idea that this serves to better the farmers and those that are in the industry to really equip and give tools for people to succeed. My part to play is in the natural farming and helping people understand but also succeed in that. And one of the things that I see just in a lot of interactions is people struggle with understanding but also implementing the IMO process, this idea of collecting indigenous microbes from your local area and getting it to go to work in your growing environment for better production and quality and disease resistance. And so we're going to assume, hopefully not too much, but assume that some people have heard of natural farming or have an introduction to it, and instead of kind of staying there, you making fun of my beard, Brock?
A lot of people are talking about it. You look good, man. And I gotta tell you, the talk you did with Wendy and Suzanne and Joshua, I think that was maybe yesterday morning. You look like a Game of Thrones character, man. You look awesome. Anyway.
Yeah, I was telling my family. I asked my kids, "Are you all right if I shave my beard? Because I get tired of the maintenance. So yeah. It might not be there in Humboldt. We'll see, or maybe we shave it off and make IMO with it." No, I'm just kidding. But we're going to, in the natural farming talk, we're going to demonstrate and jump into IMO pretty much wholeheartedly or for most of the time. In each city, some of the people that have taken my class that are proficient at it are going to do some prep work so that people are coming and seeing IMO in action. So these hot piles smelling like baking bread, what's going on in them, we can throw it under the microscope, but also just taking people through that process. So if you've been doing natural farming for a bit or you're just starting, being able to do IMO well is really the strength of the whole thing. And it's also not necessarily the easiest thing. There's some nuance to it. And so helping people kind of get over some of the learning curve and really do well with IMO making, I think it'll be a lot of fun. We'll do some hands-on, we'll play with it, people can take stuff home, and it'll be really a deep dive into that one part of the natural farming process, which for me as a farmer and for a lot of people in the different crops they're growing, Natural farming, if you have IMO, you have really 80% of the benefit. The nutrients, all this stuff is LAB and FPJ is so important, and people have so much success with it. But then they're not even trying IMO because it seems a bit, it's daunting or kind of intimidating to get started with. And so I'd like to dissuade some of those fears and really give people a hearty push or encouragement into really succeeding with that whole IMO 1, 2, 3, and 4 process, how to do it, where you bring in high nitrogen if you want to prep for planting, and just kind of answer all those questions. There's plenty of time we can spend on that, and I didn't really touch that in the last time I spoke. So for me, it'll be pretty much a whole new conversation. If you don't know natural farming at all or haven't had an introduction, go check out Shaping Fire in episode 35, or check out my YouTube. Just search Chris Trump, and you're gonna get that introduction you need to not be lost at the Science of Regenerative Cannabis Cultivation conferences this year.
That's a good point too, that get the information you need so you don't get lost, because even though, beginners are absolutely welcome and embraced, and usually at the beginning of folks talk, there's a little bit to kind of give you some context and move you in, but this is not like 101 level stuff that you get at most conferences, right? Like most of the conferences that you can go to in cannabis, they will give you basic stuff when you're not looking at the booths and you're not, looking at the vendors and stuff. But this is specifically an educational conference where it's not about, we want you to buy stuff from the vendors and we also have speakers. This is a hardcore intensive for people who are for nerds for this, people who are passionate, people who really want to get into it. And so this is more like a 300, 400 level class for people who it's assumed you already have a base of knowledge because we want to take you farther along. And I think that's important though, right? Because not only if for people who have already started to wade in that they think natural farming is important to them, it becomes harder and harder to get legit information, especially harder to get legit information in English. And you can kind of translate these skills and the heart of it for these people who are already interested, but they want to refine their game. So that's pretty cool. So Chris, one more question on that. You were talking about this IMO kind of workshop that you're going to do within the bigger conference. So for people that were there last year, do you think it would be fair to say that last year you did kind of an overview of natural farming and then you answered very specific upper level questions at each conference, but then this year you're all like, okay, instead of giving this upper level thing and having the questions be very in depth, we are going to dive right into this one area of natural farming, because when you leave it, you want everybody to feel comfortable and like they can run with it.
Yeah. So it'll be kind of specific. The geese are coming in. Let's check
they
them
sound
out
good.
Here. Yeah, it's a beautiful time of day here. It'll be narrower. So instead of trying to introduce people, assuming some people don't really know, and I can't tell you how many people were introduced to concepts they just no idea, and we had a lot of people excited about what they were doing out of those regenerative conferences last year, and but this year going kind of there's not enough time to go into everything. There's not enough time. We do 5-day intensives here in Boise, and there's not enough time to go into everything in 40 hours of education. So with the time we have at the Regenerative Conference, this being the first for kind of where we're having the conversation, we need to go deeper down these trails. I think Josh said deeper down the rabbit hole. One of the things we kind of identified in natural farming is if we can go down here and people's questions then are getting kind of tangibly answered, they're getting to see things and we talk about it in person while doing it, what could that do to bolster and boost people in their beginning of their journey with natural farming? So yeah, it'll be nerdy stuff for sure, and for me, it doesn't exclude really all the regenerative type practices. So IMO is really in line with or kind of the same. It's nature. We're all playing with the same rules, and so as we talk with other people doing things in regenerative agriculture, it's not only will we talk about the specifics of IMO creation and using it on your plants and your soil or preparation, we'll talk about the concept of why this kind of inoculation or this use of preps can give you a better product. And we'll get some great testimonies of people that have been doing this now for a couple years. Wendy's going to talk all about it, I'm sure, and just how much the processors are excited about people using regenerative processes, people using IMO, because they're getting a better product, and that matters, especially as the industry shifts and people are trying to make a bunch of not so good or maybe I don't know, I'll get into that today, but as the need to set yourself apart and your product apart from other people in the industry or just in general to have a name for what you're doing, I think it's really important that the quality is looked at. And so the biggest component from what I see or my understanding and some of who else will be talking is what is your soil life like? And so IMOs, it's basically a really inexpensive and effective shoe-in to taking care of microbial life in your soil and reaping the benefits.
I watched the interview that you did with Wendy and Suzanne with Joshua the other day, and
Okay.
you joined a little late after the two of them had already said what they were going to do different this year, and I think it's important to be pointed out that everybody knows that they're coming back this year and they're coming to the same cities, so everybody has got brand new stuff. And it's difficult to summarize other people's presentations, right? But I watched the video enough to know that for Wendy, she's bringing this new insight she's got, because my gosh, she's really taken to all the natural farming stuff. She's taken to it like a bird to water. And so whereas last year she was talking more about basics because that's where she's at, she has dove in and is now going to be talking more about separating fact from fiction with natural farming and dispelling rumors that she's been hearing as people ask her questions.
That's
and then
vital.
also, because she's a license holder herself, she does have that stuff that you mentioned earlier about the real brass tacks about being a natural farming grower and bringing those products into your local market. And so she's going to have a lot of really great new information on how, like best practices for natural farming, but then also how to make it work in your real life and make it matter to your business or your family, and then Suzanne's all excited. She's got a whole new list of pests that she wants to go through, and especially all the hot ones, because now that we've got clones going back and forth across the country, all these new pests are coming and they're showing up in new parts of the country that they haven't been seen before. And as people's budgets get tighter, because people aren't really making a lot of money in licensed cannabis yet, a lot of these folks are being tempted to decrease their use of beneficial insects. So she'll be addressing a lot of concerns that people who are trying to put out legal cannabis on a budget too. So that's good. And of course, she's always great for talking about medicine because Suzanne's very much interested in making the end consumable product as safe for everybody as possible. So the two of them went through, and you can watch that on the Regenerative Organic YouTube channel. You can watch that interview with you and Wendy and Suzanne and Joshua on the Dutch Blooms page. So there's that as well.
Yeah, such a great gathering of people, and Wendy really has. She's adopted these things, but she's also there's a point in use where there's intuitive understanding. Specifically in natural farming, I see that there's kind of okay, I'm just going to do the recipe, and then all of a sudden there's like, oh, I get why this works, and I can do this because I understand why that thing that I might change could be beneficial, and Wendy's there. So yeah, it'll be really fun to hear how this is affecting their business, and it's hugely positive for them. So yeah, coming and hearing a great grower with, a third generation grower, talk about that shift and how it's affected their bottom line, I think is worth the cost of admission. But yeah, there's a whole gambit of these great speakers, and you can take all of it, this whole conference and put it together, and they're not nothing's in conflict. There's what Suzanne does, and what we're talking about in natural farming. The healthier a plant, the less susceptible you are to disease and bugs, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. So Shango, you've been to a couple of these. What is your experience of the culture, the feel of this place? A few days. One thing I'm excited about is I've freed up my schedule. I had a couple of the conferences where it was just tight. I had to get there, be there for speaking, and then go. But this year I get to hang out, so I look forward to the side conversations. Those really end up being so valuable. And I have a lot of friends just from 2 conferences now I've been to where we have, we talk outside of industry, and yeah, it's special. But what's your experience? You're hanging out, and there's 100 like-minded people in the room. What does that feel like?
Well, the first thing is it's nice to not feel alone, right? Because all of us growers, we're so used to, not necessarily talking with other people about it or just talking online, but not actually getting that human connection that you get when you get with, your tribe in person. And so no matter the location, you're going to be pulling in all these people, from like 3-4 hours all around you, and people are coming together, and it feels good, and there's like lots of smiles and hugs and people sharing stuff back and forth, and so it's really good to pull it together. You can feel the energy rise in the room, which of course for the speakers that gets everybody jazzed as well because they play off that, and you're all learning together and kind of raising the understanding of the whole community. And what I found a lot in Michigan last year was that you find people who are going to ask a question, and sometimes it's about sourcing something, or maybe it's about a query about some kind of natural input they have, and they'll ask the question, and then you would respond to it, but then somebody else would raise their hand and say, oh, you're looking for this input. I know where it is, man. And so they would share. And so these conferences, they create like a hub for information. Not only are the speakers like downloading this information and teaching, but also there's cross-pollination as well. And there's tons of new like friendships made, people exchanging phone numbers and email addresses, and planning to get together later to to talk. And actually the number one thing I think came up last year was people continually wanting to get together with their local people and start talking about developing cultivars that were only going to be from their part of the country, and then control the genetics, because once interstate commerce is allowed, it's going to be California versus everybody. And so for anybody who's not California, now is the time to be developing cultivars that you're going to keep the genetics where you live, but people will develop a taste for that particular cultivar and come to you for it. So there's that. I really,
Shango, I've
yeah.
been there. The Portland, Maine, what you're talking about was so evident. The excitement of, this is my tribe. Here we have community. For them, it was legalization was much more. I don't know if it happened that year or just the year before, but it was like for many of them, and some of these people were veterans. The guys that have been doing this for 40 years and were there with seeds and knowledge to share and technique and things. And it was the first time they'd come together in an open forum, in a community spot. And that was really exciting. The kind of buzz about that, of like, man, this is kind of surreal. I've never done this before, where we're sitting down and, this is okay. So that was a lot of fun to watch and to listen to the stories and to meet some of these people who have kind of had to be under the radar and nobody knows who they are, and come to find out they've been doing this well for a long time and they have lots to share. So as much as there's speakers that are valuable for their information, there's also this community that I think for a lot of farmers ends up being as valuable because of the knowledge drop.
Yeah, I agree with that. And while we're at it, the seeds as well, right? Because part of every conference is the seed swap. And, probably everybody who's watching is like into seeds, right? And so it's a great opportunity to meet people who are producing seeds in your area. And so they're developing cultivars that are good for where you live. And just like IMO, you want microbes that are local. Growing plants that are developed locally put you way ahead. Because, granted, there's one in Humboldt, but Michigan and Maine are not in Humboldt, and most of the country is not in Humboldt.
Right.
And so for many of us, growing seeds from Northern California with 9-10 week finishes are not necessarily for everybody in the rest of the country. There's a reason why the Humboldt area is the heartland of American heritage cannabis, right? Because the growing is so great there. But if you live in Portland, Maine, or in Michigan, or even though nothing's happening here on Vashon Island, even where I live in the Pacific Northwest, getting seeds made by your neighbors that are proven to work in your outside conditions, and plants that like to eat the exudates of, or like to give out the exudates that your local microbes enjoy, it's a real leg up. And then it's fun because you get cool stuff, and your extras, right, that don't necessarily have all that much value to you are super valuable and rare to somebody else. So the seed swap is cool. And
it's exciting to watch. Wendy, I didn't bring any seeds. Bringing macadamia nut seeds to a cannabis conference doesn't, it just didn't seem as important. Maybe I'll bring some this year and people can plant a tree in their greenhouse. But just watching the excitement as, I just sat next to one person, but watching as she had her seeds, that she was so happy to share, because you have these extras, you're never going to use them, but you don't want to throw them away. And the excitement that people were like, I get to, have, and she's telling the stories about each cultivar, and that was pretty fun to watch. That was, for me, as far as the conferences go, that was the excitement for me in Portland. Just watching, basically, it was like my kids walking into a taffy store where they got all those barrels and all the different colors. It was above that level of excitement. So yeah, definitely bring something to share, and look forward to meeting some wonderful people with their extras as well.
One of the things that I was told to me, so somebody asked me to to trade some CBD seeds. It was a woman, and we were chatting, and it was it was towards the end, and she said to me, she says, this is all great, and I like regenerative agriculture. She says, but honestly, the best thing about this conference was for her to meet other women, because there are more, the percentage of women growers in the regenerative part of cannabis is larger than the rest, right? There's a lot of bros and bro science, but the regenerative living soil, caring for rhizosphere and the microbes, it's the percentage of women in growing this way is much higher, and so for women wanting to connect with other women, that's also a really great thing, because this brings folks out where they can learn in a safe atmosphere full of good folks. So that's pretty great.
Yeah, traveling around the world and going to farms in Southeast Asia and all these places. In the U.S., we really need that to increase. Some of the best farmers internationally are women, and in a lot of cultures and nations, primarily women. And I think I couldn't tell you why, but I think for a lot of reasons, there's a strength or inherent talent that actually makes them better at caring for a plant. And so not knocking the guy farmers out there, but I think there's something to be said for really fostering that as we grow in culture and look at what the future is for us as farmers in the U.S.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing that I would mention as far as the vibe of the event is that while there's certainly very intense information at a high level, and lots of people are taking notes, there's lots of people writing everything down, it's also a very festive vibe. It's a gathering of people. They're happy to be there. The smoke breaks are awesome. The kind everybody's bringing their A grade to share with each other and check out, and so it's a nice balance of let's get really focused and learn, but then also let's enjoy each other's company, and all around it's a great thing. So like you said earlier, well worth the money, and also when you think about the increased quality of product you're going to put out, and the increased value it has, both for your own health and to share with your friends, when you can say you're implementing KNF techniques, which is the cutting edge of healthy cannabis. It's good if you're a legal processor. It's good if you're a patient processor. Wherever you are along the game, the future is not in a bottle. The future is about wild crafting and taking care of your plants as nature intended. And when you show up to the courses, you've chosen to be on the cutting edge and embrace that. So invest a little in yourself and come out and join us all.
Yeah, Shango. So I saw a question just popped up here from Laughing Shaman, and thought it might be a good time. What is this event we're talking about?
Oh, well, the best part is I can answer that question. The hardest part is that I don't think I've gotten the name of the event correct in 2 years. So,
all right, I'll quote it, and
go ahead.
Then we can talk about some places to find it. So it's the Science of Regenerative Cannabis Cultivation Conference. It's a mouthful, and people are calling it the Regen Conference.
Yeah, and that's what I've been calling it for 2 years, and so I've never actually learned the whole name right. So the Regen Conference is a traveling conference. There's 3 locations left. Humboldt County is coming up soon, and then after that is
I think Humboldt is like the 30th or the 31st to the 2nd of February. 31st of January 2020.
Yeah, and then after that it goes to Michigan, just outside of Ann Arbor, and then the last one is in Portland, Maine. And the idea behind the conference
those are both in March, I think.
Correct. And so what's going on is that the conference itself in theme is traveling, and the same speakers more or less will be at the different locations. but of course the attendees will be different and the questions will be different. And it's the idea is to pull together the entire regenerative agriculture community, and so that everybody can up their game. And so the website will be listed below, and you can buy tickets there. They're for sale now. And not to be missed, because there's a limited number of tickets available for every location. Right. So you don't want to sleep on this. You don't want to go to the point that we're selling out again this year, because there won't be tickets sold at the door. So you got to get them in advance, and you want to get them before they're sold out.
Totally.
Chris, do you know the website off the top of your head? I didn't write it on my notes here.
Oh, I didn't. I don't either. I think it's Regenerative Cannabis conference.com, or but you can pop over and check out Dutch Blooms. There's also an Instagram at Regenerative Cannabis Cultivation, I believe, is the Instagram account. And also
you and I also both reposted the little flyer for today for this talk we're doing. Yep. And I put it on the bottom of the flyer. So
it's in my story.
It's hard to miss, but apparently we don't know it for sure at the moment.
There you go. Laughing Shaman posted the
thanks.
The
well
link
done.
right there.
Nice.
The .com. Regenerative organiccannabis.com.
Oh, you were right. Great. All right, cool. Well, thanks. Hey, well, Chris, thanks for inviting me to join you so that we could give some love to the conference. I'm looking forward to seeing you both in Humboldt and in Michigan. And just want to encourage people to come out. It's a good thing, and you can't do wrong. So thanks a lot for the invitation, brother.
Shango, thanks so much for coming. It's great to talk with you, and I look forward to spending more time. I was sorry to pop in and out of Ann Arbor and not get to chat, but this year we will.
Well, we will this time. All right, take care. Bye now.
Bye. Guys, thanks for watching that and hanging out with my friend Shango. Total blast. Good people and really, really sweet to get to chat with everybody. And I look forward to meeting with you guys, and come up and say hi, and know that I have no magical means of knowing what your actual name is. If I only know you through your Instagram tag. So do introduce yourself, and look forward to chatting. Yeah, I know there were some good questions on there. Sorry I didn't get to answer them. But you guys have a wonderful night. I'm going to go keep going with my day. I got some more to do, but thanks for watching, everyone. Talk to you soon.